Basically, you came through with my father-in-law. You kind of pull his personality, and you tell me that he has like a rag in his back pocket, and, you know, you can smell gasoline. And if he was not working on a car, he was sleeping, you know, so that's definitely him. And you said that my husband had a plate with Mickey Mouse on it from his father. I went into my husband's nightstand, and there was a little plate. It looks like a kid's plate with Mickey Mouse on it. There would be absolutely no reason why my husband would have a Mickey Mouse plate. I couldn't believe it. I had asked him, and he said he found it from his dad's. It was, you know, in one of his dad's drawers, and he just thought it was cool, and it looked old. My uncle had cancer in his hip, and we were at his house, and you picked up on that the man that lived there had a really bad limp. My aunt had passed away probably within a year, and she had a lot of surgeries prior, her whole life, so she had really, really thin hair. And I'm a hairdresser, so I, always did her hair. She always wanted extensions. And she came through and she said she just wanted me to know that she's absolutely beautiful up there, and look how thick and full her hair is. Everything during that reading was crazy.
I really believe she visited him.
He just wants you to know he knows how much you loved him.
And everybody in the room, their jaw just
knowing
dropped.
exactly what someone needs to hear.
That she called
you
me,
don't mind
but
if I take
nobody
my
really.
shoes off?
It was incredible.
And then I was like, oh my God.
There's more after this life. This is Ripple Road.
Hello and welcome back to Ripple Road. I am Scott, and if this is the first time that you're tuning in, I encourage you to listen to the previous episodes because the whole podcast is a series covering little segments of my life in each episode, and this here is the series finale, episode 12. This brings us up to our current time, covering just the last handful of years in my life and where the journey has landed me today. But it's a continued journey, right? The Ripple Road. That's the whole concept of this podcast is we're walking this road, It's a journey without a destination, or I guess you'd say the destination is getting more in touch with the present moment and getting out of the past and the future and being in this flow state where we're just on the road all the time, We're on this journey together. I started the podcast by thinking about including these stories from people who've had readings with me in the past. Maybe they could share their take on it. And I've been surprised as I'm listening to all these stories. People are telling me different details that I shared with them through messages from those in spirit during their reading. And I don't remember half this stuff. So it's been kind of a cool thing for me just going through my story and getting all these recordings from people. It's really helped me get a little balance on, wow, I've really done a lot of readings over the years.
You had a group reading in Wildwood, and I came with my sister. You stood in front of me, and you said two things. First, you said, you're going to go somewhere. You're going to travel. You're going to go to, like, Peru or something. And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? A few years later, I meet Jeff, and aren't we going to Guatemala? Really what was profound, you stood in front of me, and, you kind of lose Scott for a minute. And you came to me, and you said, oh, there's a guy. He's probably around my age. I mean, he's in like an AA meeting, and he has a drink in his hand, and he's saying, look, it's coffee. It's not vodka, and it's really good coffee. And my sister and I looked at each other, and my ex-husband had just committed suicide, and he had been a raging alcoholic, but he was telling me that he was okay. That blew my mind, and it made me feel so at peace because I knew he finally found peace.
Some of the people have also shared with me stories of their personal experiences. Things that they've experienced from those in spirit outside of the readings. Maybe the readings opened their eyes to receive more signs or patterns or presences from those in spirit, but also people get messages from their loved ones in visitation dreams, right? Like those in spirit come to visit them while they sleep and produce this crazy experience where it feels real and it shakes them awake and they feel like their loved one in spirit was really with them. That's kind of how I started out myself. If you go back through the previous episodes, you'll hear about visitation dreams that I received and how it opened my mind up to those in spirit on a regular basis, But there's also people who've received signs from their loved ones in spirit in their waking life, and that's kind of cool too. So I want to share some of those stories here and hopefully inspire you to open your mind and your heart more to see that those in spirit remain connected with us, and they're always there. If your eyes can perceive it, if your mind is programmed to look for it, there it is. Some people need more. They want the really over the top, meaningful, crazy, can't explain it signs, and other people will see like a cardinal or a butterfly, and they'll know that it means that their mother in spirit is with them. I always think that if you start out small, right? If you allow the small things to be significant, it opens your mind to greater things, Then there's more information on this on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. It's just search Scott Edward Henry, and that's Scott with one T. And on my website too, it's scottedwardhenry.com. I talk about these things a little bit more. So just opening your mind to getting those in spirit to connect with you, to feel their presence in your life. This is the road that we're all on, We all have the seed of life force within us that continues after our physical body perishes, but it's in there now. It was in there before you were born, and it remains an active force, That energy, that flowing life force energy that's within us all, that we all spring up from, that's that energy that I'm connecting to. When I try to channel those in spirit for people, I'm going into this space where I'm away from the remnants of my consciousness that are influenced by the physical world, right? My ego, my baggage, my emotions, and I go into this eternal place within that I can sense and feel this life force energy, this infinite awareness. That's where I'm doing readings from. But we all have access to that, We're all made of that energy. We just have to get out of our heads a little more and get in touch with this infinite seed of awareness that's within everybody,
So I used to have visitation dreams from my grandfather all the time, where he would just be over the house for dinner. And we used to do big family, Sunday dinners, and he would be over for dinner, and he wouldn't be a ghost, he'd be alive, but we knew he was dead, but he was alive for dinner, and then we knew that after dinner he would have to go back to being dead. But it wasn't like he was a ghost or a corpse or anything like that. He was my grandfather, but he was just there for dinner, and then he was going to go back to being dead. And then a couple times in recent years, I've dreamt that he wasn't really dead, and that he was alive the whole time and in a nursing home, and no one ever told me.
My dad has always been such a big Star Wars fan, ever since Star Wars came out. The Mandalorian came out, and I really feel like my dad would have loved this series, this show. I like to think that when I watch it, my dad watches it with me, and we watch it together. So and I was scrolling through Facebook, and I followed nerd pages because I'm a nerd. So this person said, which name do you like better in regards to Baby Yoda? And then it's a poll, and it has a bunch of different names, and it's Baby Yoda, Grogu, the child. And then for a normal joke name, they put Gary. That's my dad's name, and who picks that out of for a random name? Oh, Gary. You would pick I don't know, Fred or something, something generic. Holy crap, if that's not a sign, then I don't know what is.
And in the last episode, I talked about the Peace Out Spiritual Center. It's kind of a center for learning and meditation that we tried to start up. It ran for about 8 months before I was just too stretched thin, I went into all the emotional baggage that I carry around, right? We all have that. And mine was the people-pleasing thing. That leads to burnout. If you can't say no to people, you just end up stretched thin, And that's something I had to learn. But one thing I did take away from that spiritual center was that I really enjoyed doing those talks, We would do the guided visualization to open the service, but then I went into a little sermon, a little spiritual talk on some topic. And I used to have these insights, it's that's how my brain is formed. I absorb all this new age information. It's like the delicatessen of world religions. I'll take a half a pound of Buddhism, a quarter pound of Native American shamanism. It's I'm all over the map, But then you end up kind of cobbling together these little theories in your head. I love spending time in my head just thinking about that stuff. If you've listened to previous episodes, it's probably because of the way my personality formed from my childhood and teen years, I just like being alone in my head and like thinking about the big concepts, you know? So I still have that in me, and I've read a lot and I've watched a lot and I've had a lot of experiences in different meditation circles and readings and channeling those in spirit. So it's like, okay, well, maybe I can share some of this, you know? And it depends. Like, my insights, maybe they work for me in my reality and they're inspiring to me. Maybe they'll be inspiring to other people. Maybe they'll be thought-provoking. I don't know. There's a lot of different people on planet Earth, you know? Some people would hear me talking about this stuff and think, man, that guy's a nutbag, you know? Other people might hear it and be like, wow, I had a similar experience. It's really nice to hear somebody else out there, you know, talking about this stuff. So I get into like, okay, what am I going to do on the next step here? You know, where can I go with this? Because I don't know if just doing readings is all I want to do with my life. Like, maybe there's more to be had. Maybe I can like enrich my own life by sharing with others and see where that road takes me, you know? So I thought, I'm going to start up a YouTube channel, you know? That's what everybody does. And that'll be cool because like everyone's on their phones anyway. And it's like, you know, a technological society. So maybe I can use that instead of like, I don't know, giving live talks. Maybe I could do a YouTube channel and share those insights. And here's me like, I got to get the lighting right. I got to get the camera and the tripod. I've got to get the background and the colors all just right. Like, I want to be taken seriously. I don't want to look like some Joe Schmo amateur, right? That's my insecurity. Like, I want validation. So I want to like look like I'm taking myself seriously, you know, and that's important to me because of the judgments. I'm going to be honest with you. Let's share a moment. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott, and this is the first in hopefully a whole bunch of let's try it again. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott. Thanks for tuning in. This is the first of hopefully what will be many. Dang it. I think we got it this time. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott. Thanks for tuning in. This is the first of many videos, hopefully. I mean, I'm like, I better come across looking good. I don't want any criticisms, you know? So it's like, I'm making sure I got a nice haircut. I'm like trimming my nose hairs. I'm like, this HD camera is going to pull up everything, right? Got to make sure there's not dark circles under my eyes. Got to make sure I sound good, right? It can't be allergy season and I'm stuffed up or I have a cold. I'm like super aware of these things, you know? So maybe that's no good, but I get it. There's got to be a balance, right? Like, I didn't want to look amateur because then I feel like I'm opening myself up to more criticisms. I don't know which way is the right way, but I'll tell you what, after doing the YouTube channel thing for 12 episodes, I had to throw in the towel. It was making me crazy. I couldn't handle all of the image stuff, you know, all of the edits. You know, look, for this podcast, I'm kind of just letting it flow. I just talk. But like, I have to do edits here and there, right? We edit it down for clarity, and sometimes I cough or I sniffle, and I'll edit those out because it sounds more professional if you do, right? And that's cool. I mean, I think you kind of have to do that, right? But like for the YouTube thing, if you edit it too much, there's all these cuts in the video, and then you're seeing it, and now I'm like super aware of it. It's those insecurities, you know, you got to deal with that and you got to just put it out. So this podcast has really allowed me to just be more real and authentic in a format that I'm more comfortable with, you know. But if you want to check out the YouTube thing, you can look at that and see for yourself if some of the stuff I talk about is insightful or inspiring, or if it's just like neurotic and rambling. I don't know, man. Maybe there's a happy medium in there. Happy medium. All right.
Like, lights always go on and off, and I know I turn them off, but the basement light will be on the next morning. It used to scare me, but I'm just like, light went on.
Right after she passed, I want to say, gosh, within a couple days, I was laying in bed, and I don't even know how to explain it. It's like an aura, like a purple aura, sort of like smoky, and it would come in light, like a white turned to purple, and then fade out, and then come back and fade out. I've had this several times since she passed, and I know it's her. It's weird. It's weird, but it's true. It's not as often now, but it does come and go, and it's a comforting feeling now, you know.
I mean, I've been having all kinds of little signs since he died. One of the bigger ones to me was on New Year's Eve, was me talking to him before I went to sleep, saying, oh, this is a new year, what's going to happen, give me a sign. I woke up soaked with sweat, and I never in my life do this. I woke up, I pick up my phone, I look at it, it turns 12 just as I look at it. All the noisemakers, people outside started, and that to me is absolutely him. After he died, I just wanted an old Mercedes going, and he just liked it and wanted to keep it, so we did. Called the guy to come tow it. He couldn't get the hood open, but he was in and out of the car a couple of times. So the last guy comes, gets the hood open. He's getting ready to tow it away. I'm feeling really sad. As he's getting ready to go, he says, you've got change up here on the passenger side roof. He's pulling change off of the roof. Well, I thought that was weird because we were all in and out of that car so many times. Never saw it. Why would there be change up on my roof? Another thing with change, I'm driving in the car. I look down, there's a dime on my lap. It could have fallen out of my pocketbook, but, I was in the car a while. So I just looked at the date on the dime, and the dime was 2015, which is when we started living together. The next day, there's a quarter sitting on my steering wheel, where the steering wheel meets the dashboard. I don't put anything on my dashboard, and even if I did, it would be very hard for this quarter to have fallen and landed in this teeny tiny spot. I pull the quarter, and that's 2015 too.
So by the time I realized, I gotta stop this YouTube thing, this isn't working, it's all the video production stuff and the editing and the lighting and the background and do I look good on camera? Is this shirt okay? Oh, it's too much, man. So in trying to think all right, if that's not it, then what else? What's the next thing? I'm always trying to figure that out. So it turns out I actually know a guy who is just getting into video production. And when I say getting into, I mean he's got a production company that's really getting off the ground. He does commercial work for local businesses. He's got the drones with the camera, and he's got so much equipment. I checked out some of his work and wow, man, you're really doing this video production thing crazy. This looks amazing. So I ended up giving him a call and just kind of running that past him hey, what do you think about doing a TV show pilot with me? We can film readings, we can edit it down, you can do all the production stuff, and we can make a TV show based around me and my life, or mediumship, make it a spiritual thing, and we can try to figure out how to market this TV show pilot. That would be cool, huh? So we met and we talked about it, and we set up the whole thing. We got readings set up to film, and he came out and filmed the person talking, about their expectations before I arrived, and then I arrive. He's got me walking up to the door outside. He's got me knocking on the door. I mean, look, there's production things to make a TV show look good, right? You can't just show up and film the reading and expect viewers are going to tune in for that. I mean, there was a time you could, in the 90s, John Edward, the medium, he had the Crossing Over TV show, and that was just the reading, And I'm thinking that would be cool, but he himself had said at one point, nowadays, if he wanted to do another TV show, everybody wants it to be a reality show. They want to know about his background and his life just as much as they want the readings, if not more. And that's kind of what ratings are about. That's what TV shows are about. And they're looking at the bottom line and the dollar and the eyes on the screen, and that's what sells. And we're aware of that heading into this project, right? So it's he'll come out with me in the car and film me driving to the house, and it's I'm talking about I'm getting in touch with the zone right now. Usually 10 minutes away from the house, I'll start to put my feelers out. If there's anything that I need to be aware of that I'm walking into, just energy things or weird situations, and I'll be thinking about it, and I'm listening to the GPS, and it says to turn left here, and then I missed the turn, and now I'm oh, is that a sign? I missed the turn. Is someone trying to get me to not go to this reading? And he's filming me that. I'm see, this could work. I could be this quirky medium, and that might be entertaining to watch me do what I do, especially if we could get actual readings on film where I'm channeling messages from spirit, and you can see my demeanor change and my voice and my tone change to match the person in spirit, and you can see the people that I'm sitting with and their faces as they're taking the message, and this could be cool, right?
During that reading, the word blue kept coming up. Dan kept saying blue, blue, and you couldn't I didn't know what it meant. You didn't know what it meant. And at the very end, it was like, you said he was like yelling, like to try to get your attention, like Baloo. And in my notes, I wrote that down, like Baloo, like from the Jungle Book, question mark. I met with his best friend, I don't know how many months later, to talk to him about Dan and everything. And I went through all my notes with the readings. And we got to that last part, and I almost didn't say it because it still didn't make sense. And I told him, and he started to cry. And I was like, dude, like, you know what that means? And he said, yeah. He said, I was engaged before, and we were going to have a baby. She was pregnant, and she lost the baby, but the baby's name was supposed to be Blue. Yeah.
Distance has no role. Because for the years that I was in California, the messages that came through, well, it's almost like connecting to the other side. Do I really connect any differently, whether I'm in California or New Jersey or New York or Pennsylvania? No. I have gotten messages that have been as clear and as precise and as specific to who my family members are when I was living in Palm Springs and then in LA and in New York, and now here in Pennsylvania. Of course, if you're going to another dimension of time and space, you know, why would geographic distance have anything to do with it, right?
You addressed her husband, who I hadn't even mentioned, that had passed back in the mid-90s. The way you described him and what his spirit was doing for her, you just made it so known that he was protecting her, but the way you described his personality was spot on to him too. So it made sense.
When we go to film the actual reading, things kind of fall apart a bit. It doesn't quite work out as well, right? And you could say, well, maybe you're nervous and you're in your head because you know you're being filmed. I don't know, man. That's why I do the meditation. I tune that stuff out. I'm pretty good at it. Maybe it's because the people I'm sitting with are nervous because they're being filmed, so they tense up, and that affects the circle of energy. Yeah, that's possible. I don't know, maybe. But what I have found is the energy that I'm working with when I channel those in spirits, this life force energy that I build up in the space, can't be captured on film or audio. It's not there. The recording devices of our time cannot record psychic energy. The feeling you get, like when you walk into a house and you're like, ooh, this house feels haunted. The hairs on my arm are standing up. How do you record that sense? You can't, right? We don't have the technology for it. That feeling is very dominant in a reading with me. And all you're going to get is the audio and video. And I don't know, man. I watched these things and I'm like, ooh, that doesn't look good. Like, I just was so self-aware. I'm like, I look dumb taking on the voice of someone else. And I realized, like, wow, there's a lot of time where I'm looking at the ground going, it's a man. It's a man in spirit. Hold on, he's connected to you. It's your father. Is your father passed? And somebody would watch it and go, look, he's asking a question. Is your father passed? And then he glanced up, her body language. He's doing cold reading. So I'm aware of this, and I'm like, man, I can't put this crap out there because I know that I'm going to put a target on my back and everyone's going to jump on me because I can't deal with all the criticism. So I'm like, how am I going to safeguard against the criticisms if I'm like a snowflake over here, you know? Oh, gosh. You know, here's what happens just to give you an idea of like some of the baggage I'm carrying around psychologically about being taken seriously and how others think. Well, these kinds of things will happen. I'll have a little moment with you here. Ready? Okay. So 10 years into doing readings full time, you know, I've been doing readings for maybe 20 years at that point, but like 10 years as a full-time job. I mean, I've read thousands of people at this point, right? Had these amazing transformative spiritual experiences. And here's one, I'm like coming out of a reading. It was really good. I'm feeling the energy. I come out to the car. I turn on my stereo in my car. I'm going to listen to some great music on the way home. And all right, I'm feeling pretty good, you know? And I'm driving home. And before I get home, I hit this local sandwich shop because I'm hungry and it's dinner time. So I walk in, order myself a sandwich. And the guy, you know, he's working the register. He looks at me. He's like, so what's going on with you today? Just making small talk. You know, I'm like, I'm just getting off of work late, just getting home, getting to dinner now, you know? And he's like, oh yeah, what do you do? I'm like, Oh boy. Well, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm like, I'm going for it in this conversation. Why not? It's been years. I don't want to hide it anymore, right? Yeah, I'm a psychic medium. I go to people's homes and channel their loved ones in spirit. And the guy, I should have known better because he just looked like a jerk. But I went for it anyway. And the guy looks at me like baffled and angry, like, wow, how do you live with yourself conning people in need? Like, these people are desperate, and what do? You just show up and you just charge them because that's what you do? How do you live with yourself? How do you sleep at night doing that? Like, he never was interested in hearing my story or knowing me as a person. He had all kinds of assumptions locked and loaded, and that was it. I just want my damn sandwich, dude. Guess I'm not going to that place ever again, right? He really tore into me bad. And that kind of stuff will happen again and again. You really can't guarantee that that will never happen again. It's people, and you're going to run into people, and that's how it's going to work, right? So I'm always aware of those people and the judgments and the criticisms because there's like 8 billion people on this planet. Not everybody believes in this stuff. Some people believe in it, but they just think of it like psychic fortune telling. You know what I mean? Like a little party. We're going to have wine and cheese and, Scott's going to come and tell you about your grandkids and your future husband's name. And it's going to be fun and entertaining, right? How many people that believe in psychic abilities see it as a therapeutic, healing, emotional experience, even smaller? That's the percentage of people that I'm working with, right? Now, I can focus on those people and feel really good and get motivation to continue this line of work, or I can focus on the sandwich shop guy and the other people who don't quite get it, and all the times I show up and people are drunk and they think it's just a psychic party, and I can focus on all that and it'll influence my behavior. And now I'm not really coming at it from a place of enthusiasm and joy. I'm shifting my tone. I'm talking about myself and my life and my experiences in different ways. I'm guarded. I'm always being aware of these other people and their criticisms. So that's going to shape how I think about myself, how I present myself to the world. And maybe that's okay to some extent, but you can't really go down that rabbit hole too much, or you're going to be locked into a corner. And then I can't be honest about who I am, my experiences that I've had. And that's why I'm liking this podcast, because it helps me to just put it out there in a raw and honest way without thinking about, oh, that person's going to think this person's going to think that. Hey, if you've come this far, like, one thing I can't do is lie about it, man. It just doesn't sit well with me. I feel so much better when I have an honest moment with other people. It makes me feel connected to others. And that's what we all want, right? I'm no different.
I think you feel like if you start doing it that way, like the fortune teller-ish type thing, I think you think that it's going to get away from you and you're never going to get back to what you really want. You would be great at it, but that's not what you're about. You want to help and heal people because, like you said, you get into this feeling. That's what sets you apart. I always say that. Like, you really, really care. And I'm not saying other mediums, other psychics don't care. It is so important to you. Like, I think other psychics or mediums, they care, but if they get a fortune teller reading off and people are happy, they're really happy about that. It matters so much to you. Like, it's very important to you that you get your specific message across. And I think that's what kind of bumps you up against this wall, because you're like, no. I want to do this. This is what I do. That's the wall for you. That's what's hard. Every time something, so excited about something, and then you're like, I can't do this anymore. If you get one little thing in your head, you just start to, I can't do this. But one of these times, everything is going to be, it's going to be the exact right time, and everything is going to mesh, and it's going to just go, this is what I want to do. You're going to be fixed emotionally, personally, and everything is going to mesh at the same time, at the right time, and then that's what's going to happen. But I think this year particularly, especially, you've really shed so much of that, and I think it's only the beginning. So I think that it's coming. I think it's coming
If you watch TV shows about mediums, they're walking into like public places and surprise reading, somebody like picking out clothes on a clothing rack, and they're acting surprised. Yeah, it's a little staged. You know what I mean? Was it staged the whole time? Was it scripted to be that way? Or, did the medium walk in, do a reading, and they're like, that was good, let's record that again from a different angle with lighting that's better now, Of course, they have to do it for the TV show because that's how it works, You gotta kind of pander to the format, And I'm not comfortable with that. Should I get comfortable? Maybe. Will I evolve to get to a place where I can do that? Maybe. I don't know, But it wasn't working in that moment because I was still feeling insecure and like, I don't know, man. Some people are good on camera, some aren't. I feel like I'm somewhere right in the middle there. I'm sort of okay with it. It's funny because what ended up happening on one of the recordings, we went out to record a reading. He's behind the camera, he's on the laptop, he's manning the equipment, and I ended up reading him, and ended up bringing through his future father-in-law. Turns out he wasn't even engaged yet. He was going to propose later, and I'm bringing through messages about the future proposal and all this stuff. He made a little montage of that, and I'll upload that on my bonus content for this episode too. You could check out that clip. He's pretty good at video production. You'll see what I mean. So after doing this for a couple of weeks, and I took a break from it and came back to it a month later, and I'm like, finally, like, dude, you know what? I really appreciate all the time that you put into this. I can't see how this is going to go where we could actually market it to a network while still maintaining the kind of raw, honest, spiritual vibe. Ultimately, this whole idea of like, what kind of people are you focusing on, or what types of people are you allowing yourself to be influenced by? There's one way of looking at it like, wouldn't it be great if everybody in the world was more like me? Right? Because then you're not challenged. Then you feel that connection with others. You feel less alone. You feel more understood, and you can understand others. But that's not the world that we live in. The world we live in has 8 billion different people with 8 billion different realities, Everyone's in their own reality. What personality are you? Are you a comedian? Are you serious? Are you insecure? Are you confident? Different personalities can have chemistry together because there's all these different layers to each person. One person's reality might be very close to another person's reality, and then you're like inspired by that. You find those connecting points and you're like, oh, me too. Wow. And then you feel less alone. We all have drives as human beings to do that, to find those connection points, right?
My husband knew he was going to die. He was terminal, and he did a lot of research. You told me that he was very, very, very happy. So by you telling me that, it made me think that everything he believed in and read about was true. That gave me hope that, when it is my time, that I will be experiencing the same thing that we talked about before he died. Whenever I'm very, very stressed, I normally find a feather. And I was told that Michael leaves feathers. I was walking and you told me to talk to Michael even if I don't talk out loud. Just think about him. And I thought about him and I said to him, Michael, because you told me you were so happy, you don't have to watch out for me anymore. Go do your thing. Be happy. And as I rounded the corner, there in the middle of the street was a big feather. So the other day, my parents live with me. They're 90 and 86, and it's been very stressful. And I was on my walk, and my cell phone rang. It was my mother. The house is beeping. You need to come home right away. And I thought to myself as I hung up and started to walk back was, oh, Michael, you need to help me here. I can't be dealing with this all the time. 2 minutes later, the cell phone rings again, and my mother goes, I think I know where it's at. It's your alarm tags. And I said, press the disarm button. And boom, the noise went off. And as I hung up and looked down, there in front of me was a feather. And it was a white, fluffy feather. For that feather to be there made me feel that he was listening and just directed my mom and me as to what to do because I was just so stressed out. Another time I was doing some work outside, and he always took care of the outside of the house. And I said to him, Michael, I really need your help right now. And as I go back to the box that I was working in, right next to the box was a feather. Once in a while you can say, okay, well that's a coincidence. These aren't coincidences. They're not at all. They're there when I need them and when I ask for them.
When somebody you encounter is living in a reality of their own that's very different from you, right? Maybe they're from a different culture, but then again, maybe they're just a different personality. Maybe they're more active and you're more passive. Maybe they're more feet on the ground and you're more daydreamy. But then it becomes difficult to make that chemistry happen, to find that bridge, to meet in the middle, to find like the commonality. I mean, it's very relevant to today in the journey that we're on, finding common ground with others versus the us versus them mentality, right? Like more people like me need to get away from more people like you. You people are destroying our planet. That's that division and the politics, and it's all over social media. It's what sells advertising. It's what keeps eyes on the screen. All of the shock and those people are doing this to us kind of people, This is a thing that we all have to grapple with, that there are people that seem like there's less common ground that we share. It's harder to find the common ground, but it's still there. But we all have to navigate this, right? So I have to learn, what do I focus on more? Do I focus on the people who are more similar to me, or do I focus on the people who are less similar to me? Which ones do you allow more time in your mind to spend in your heart and with your emotional reactions to the world you live in? Are you going to fixate on the differences or the commonalities, And for me, it is that delicate balance because my job depends on finding the common ground energetically between me and the people that I'm sitting with so that they're not guarded against me, they're not skeptical or reserved, You don't know what you're going to get because, again, 8 billion people, 8 billion realities, right? But you can get there, you can show up to the house, and you can try and talk to them and find that common ground. They let their guards down. They see that you're a regular person, and maybe you can create that energy in that space, Like I'm always saying, when I showed up to do in-home readings, I would feel out the energy of the space. And if it wasn't clicking, I'd be like, man, we gotta go to a different room, or you gotta tell that person to leave, or hey man, I gotta come back next week and this other woman's gonna be here with us. I can sense and feel it clicking then, Or like I move this couch over here and block this doorway with this chair, and then I feel like the energy's flowing. There's the click. So I'm always running after that click for the reading, It's like that flow energy. It's the same thing for anybody in a life, right? If you're having a conversation with somebody and it's flowing, you lose track of time. You're in that like good kinetic energy with somebody and you're vibing with them and your endorphins are running and you feel connectedness and you're like, I understand this person and I'm inspired by them, and you have that moment, right? That's what a reading is. It's like a pumped up moment of shared connection, But trying to bridge those gaps when they're really far apart is difficult. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It's going to take more of your personal energy and time trying to really set aside a moment to make sure you can connect and understand each other. And there's going to be emotions involved when you're failing at connecting, right? If you're having a conversation with somebody and they're just not getting it, they're just not hearing what you're saying, you try and say it in a different way. You try and hear what they're saying, and then you try to adopt your dialogue to match them, and you're trying to find common ground so you can get this point across to somebody, right? That's like that with any topic. Some people are just never going to get it because maybe you just don't have the skills to meet them, or they don't have the skills to hear you, right? And at that point, you tried. You tried. You just got to kind of walk away. You can't use the rest of your time in your life focused on the people that are really hard for you personally to connect to. You can still make some time to try, but you can't devote your entire life to that, or you're going to end up feeling very alone, depleted, and depressed, And so for me, that translates to these readings. Like I was focusing on all the different things that weren't working. And so it's like basic vibrational type stuff that if I'm fixating on those, man, there's a lot of people out there that don't get it. And I've got to try to figure out how to bridge these gaps. I'm going to naturally, magnetically draw in more people of that disposition, of that wide gap of reality. I'm going to draw in more people like that. And that's exactly what was happening. And that's why I got burned out. And I was booked with these in-home readings for 4 and 5 months out. Well, I didn't know how to get out of it. I'm like, how do I law of attract out of this? How do I change my disposition to one of joy so that I'm attracting and magnetically pulling in more people of my disposition, more realities that are closer to my reality so we can make this shared experience of a reading happen?
I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep and I was tossing and turning and tossing and turning. And I looked up and at the end of my bed, there was like this figure. It was like sparkly. It didn't look like my father. It really didn't even look human, but I knew it was him. And I looked at him and I knew he was trying to warn me or tell me something. And I was so freaked out and I woke up the next day and I told my roommates, yeah, I think my father visited me. I don't know. It feels like he's warning me about something. Well, a few days later, I got so sick with a horrible kidney infection, wound up for a couple of weeks in the hospital. Not too long after that, he would come to me when something was going to happen. And my dad smoked stogies, which is a very, very distinct smell. He would come to me with the smell of stogies. Like he came to me right before my mother had a stroke. I started talking to my sister about it, and she said, you know what, I smell them too.
The morning she passed away, we were down the shore. It was Memorial Day weekend. We stayed at a family house down the street from her house. So if you were at the front door, you could see where my grandma's house was. And grandma at the time was on hospice care. We knew she was going to pass. We just weren't sure how quickly. So about 7:30 in the morning, as all toddlers do, wake up early, getting things ready. Had the front door open, summertime, coming in summer weather. My son walked up to the door and goes, Mama. And I said, we'll go see Mom later. Come on, let's get your stuff on for the beach. We'll go see Mom later. He goes, Mom, hi. I said, we'll go say hi to Mom later. And I was like, come on over. And as he's trying to back up away from the door, he's waving. And he must have said it 3 or 4 more times before he gave up and came over to me. We head over to the beach, and about 10 o'clock in the morning, my mom calls to say my grandmother had passed away at about 7:30 in the morning. And I knew that grandma was at the door, and he knew it, and he was seeing her, and he was saying hi to grandma.
The reality that works better for me is to believe that there's an energy that's within us all. We came into this physical world from that place of energy, and when our bodies perish, we will continue because we are infinite awareness. We are that vibrant force. You can't destroy that. I focus on that, and I live in that reality. So one of the things I came up with was, if I do a larger group reading, right, like 25 to 30 people and sell tickets to that, and by doing that, if 1 or 2 people show up who are living in that reality where this isn't a thing and it's going to throw me off, it'll be counterbalanced by the 28 or 29 people who do believe in it, and the overall energy will just start to click. Maybe I don't go to that one chair over there in the room or that corner or that row. I'll just focus on this other people, and they can watch and they can see, and that's exactly what happens in the larger group readings, because no matter how much I try to tell people beforehand, don't show up drunk, don't bring skeptics, don't twist anybody's arm, people will still do exactly that, because some people live in a reality where those words mean something different. They go in one ear and out the other. You hear a sentence and you pick up the first couple words, but the other words you didn't really click with. So it's like, well, I'm not drunk. I only had 2 drinks. That's fine. It'll be fine. And that's not what I said, but that's what you think is okay. And that's hard to control, But it's like, by doing the group readings, maybe I can counterbalance those people that don't hear me, that can't make that connection happen, and they think about it how they think about it, and that's it. I can't budge them. Well, it'll still work, right? So I'm coming up with this idea to do more of these large group readings and less of the in-homes. It's like I'm doing 2 and 3 of these larger group readings now every month. Maybe I can get it to a place where I'm doing 4 or 5. So it's just starting to take root when the coronavirus hits and all the social distancing hits, all of the mask requirements, all of the quarantining and the stay-at-home orders come down. And it's like, how long is this going to last? I don't know, but I'm going to have to postpone those group readings. At that point in mid-March of 2020, I had 4 group readings that were already sold out, and I had to postpone them. So I postponed them a month. And then that month comes and goes. Postpone them another month. Then that month comes and goes. Got to the point where I had to push them off a whole year, right? Because the pandemic. But the interesting side note to this is it forced me to stop meeting people face to face. I have no choice. That's it. It's kind of like the law, I can't do it. So it forced me to take a break. Wow, that's kind of cool. I mean, I was going through those burnout years and I was struggling with, how do I make this work as a business model? And here's the universe, the hand of God saying like, take a breather, buddy. Just stop for a minute, right? And it's like the first month, we're going to buy some Monopoly games and we'll play and we'll watch Netflix. And by the second month, it's like, gosh, how long is this going on for? I'm going to get back into reading books again, Like I hadn't done that in years. So here's another interesting tidbit for you. Like, wow, talk about the other side of the pandemic and like coming out of this like, wow, maybe that did mean something. I started reading books again. I ordered all these books on Taoism. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's a religion sort of, but the whole concept of a religion, I think, is a westernized concept. This is more of like a life philosophy, right? Like it's interrelated with Buddhism and Confucianism, but it goes all the way back to like ancient Chinese shamanism. And there's like a unbroken line of history of passing down this secret knowledge of this life force energy that they call the Tao, right? And it is in everything. It is constantly flowing, and you can live a life in accordance with the Tao or out of harmony with it, right? And they teach how to get in harmony with it through meditation, through moving these energies around your body, sucking this into your belly, pulling it up your spine. I'm like reading these books, and I'm like, hold up, that's what I'm doing in meditation. Hold on a second, that's what I do before a reading, right? And it seems really esoteric to us Westerners, but there's this long line of millennia of a tradition in China of this teachings of Taoism. And the more books I'm reading, the more it's striking a chord. And then I remembered I had that dream that I was in a past life in China, in these mountains, and I walked upon this vista and came out and saw this beautiful temple on the mountainside, and I knew that I was walking there, and I knew that I was going to live there, like, for the rest of my life. This was a thing. And then I realized, wow, all of these teachings about the flow state of being in accordance with this way, this life, this source, I'm doing that already because I spent an entire lifetime learning from Taoist masters how to do that. Did I master it myself? I don't know, but I carried something over into this lifetime because it's there without me knowing it. I already did the work in a past life, Now, that sounds crazy to some people. Again, talk about 8 billion different realities. Some realities, some people out there would hear that and be like, man, that guy's a lunatic. Am I going to focus on them? Am I going to hold back from that story and I'm not going to tell you about it? I'm going to hold back all of my truth and my experiences in the world? No, man, I want to find connection with other people. So I have to kind of ignore the people that are really far away from my perceptions, that live in a reality that's very different than me. And if I want to find connection with other people, I have to believe that there's other people out there living in similar realities, that if I talk about these stories in a raw and honest way, it's going to be inspiring to them. It's going to encourage them to share their stories. And we're all going to feel less alone in our reality, And then we can try and just be more honest with everybody and just not find the divisions to be so harmful, right? We can't let those differences censor our experience of reality and our ability to connect with others. We can't live in fear, right? So I'm going to tell you, this is what happened during the pandemic. I got into reading these Taoist books and I was mesmerized because there's literally teachings about how to get in touch with this energy, how to flow it through your body, how to create a sacred space where the energy is all attuned around you and it flows and you create this mystical experience where you can then leave your body, travel among the stars, communicate with other Taoist masters that have died physically from the earth but still exist and are still teaching us. Hold up, this is what I call spirit guides. When I go to someone's house and I'm moving furniture around, I'm doing this. I'm trying to get into the flow. Wow, I'm already doing these things. I learned that stuff in a past life. And so it's like all making sense to me now because the life force energy has to build up. And each person being part of that life force energy, resonating with that energy within. If they're in harmonics with me, then we all connect. We all lift off and we all have that experience. But if someone's dissonant from that and they're living in a way that that life force energy is not flowing through them, it's blocked up, maybe it's inadvertently from psychological or emotional baggage that they're seizing up in that moment. They don't want to hear this stuff. They're living in fear. That blocks it all up. And then we can't have that shared experience because that ingredient is off. Oh my God, I've been talking about this for decades at this point. Here it is written about. This is crazy. Now look, I'll share these books with you on the bonus content, but I don't guarantee that they're going to resonate with you, you know? To each their own. I found something in it, but they don't like lay it all out for you in book form because again, it is secret knowledge. It just is a signpost pointing you towards the truth. You got to experience that truth for yourself. But if you didn't have that experience, you might read the books and be like, they're just words on a page that make sense academically or kind of on a cerebral level. But you got to feel it with your soul. It's a spiritual presence, you know, hard to describe that in a book. But if you have it, you know it. It's just like the readings, you know? Can somebody go out of a reading with me and then go and tell their friends like this amazing experience? They'll just hear the words about the reading and it's like, well, I wasn't there, so I don't know. Maybe that guy was cold reading you. Maybe you're not telling me the whole story. Maybe you gave him information and you're leaving that part out of your story. And maybe like they weren't there. You know what I mean? It's one of those things you have to experience.
And I got all the rocks and I laid the one rock on her heart and then there was a little heart-shaped carnelian and I put that in her left hand and I laid all the little stones out and we were talking to her the whole time. We were all laughing and the music was playing and the rocks were all around and all the people were there and we, laughed about something else and I noticed she'd start breathing. And I looked at her and I said, she's gone. And I thought, and even just talking about it, just this absolute swelling of joy in my heart. And even the friend from high school who, isn't into all of this kind of stuff, he just looked at me, he said, you can feel her. It was just like the whole room was just engulfed with this joy. It was so beautiful. For hours I felt it.
I hope everybody has an experience like I have because it has been the most awesome way to validate why we're here and where we're going. And I just hope everybody has an experience like I have. It changes your life and it makes it just a little bit happier to know that it's not for nothing and they're still with you.
A lot of that stuff, with Taoism and that flow state and that energy, it's all there. You already know the flow state within you. You just have to be more in touch with it, right? Another way to describe it is the law of attraction, right? That's our new age way of talking about this. The law of attraction is the flow state. It is the Tao. It's the Taoist way of looking at things. There is a life force energy that's always active and moving, that all life and our whole reality springs up from, and it's all responding to you because you're that life force energy too, right? So the law of attraction stuff, if you've heard of this, It states that where you're resonating, your feeling place, the world responds to you by giving you more of that, because that's how the Tao works. So there's further things to study here. Maybe you don't get into the Taoism thing. It can be a little esoteric. I'll tell you what you can get into, because it's the same thing, is the law of attraction. Law of attraction is very hip right now. It's all over the place. There's podcasts, there's YouTube videos, there's books. It's all over the internet. Get into it, man. Do a deep dive on that, because it's worded in a way that makes more sense to our Western culture. It might come across in a way that resonates. And that's the thing I'm talking about. So if you've listened to previous episodes, you know about Elise. She's my wonderful partner in crime in life. And she's gotten into this law of attraction thing because in doing this podcast, I always run it past her. I'm like, hey, babe, can you listen to this podcast for me and let me know how it sounds? You know, that's my thing. She's got to be like my editor, you know. But so she's gotten into more podcasts, and she found this great Law of Attraction podcast. I'm going to share this in the bonus content of this episode too, because once this Ripple Road thing comes to an end with this, series finale, season finale, you might want more. I'm going to tell you, go here for more. Do this more, because this is what I'm talking about, man. I'll share the link to the podcast that Elise has been listening to. It's wonderful, man. A lot of different angles, a lot of different approaches to kind of help you grasp that internal energy that I'm talking about, right? It's like the Buddhists say, these are teachings that are really not enlightenment themselves. The teachings are signposts pointing you to the enlightenment. The thing that you got to feel is what you have to feel. Nobody else can give you that. They can point you towards it, right? But just like living in your own reality, the more you're in touch with your truth, the better your life is going to be. Right? And that's the journey that I'm on. That's the journey that you're on. This flow state will help you do it. Of course, we have to make connections with other people to feel integrated into the world. But of course, we also have to disconnect from other people to get in touch with our infinite self. It's a balance, you know? We all have to do this more. And you know what? Doing this podcast has been wonderful for me, because it's allowed me to see my whole story leading up to this point and realizing that I'm not at the destination. There is no goal here. I am walking the path. And it's okay to admit I don't know everything, and I'm still working on it, and we're sharing that journey together. There you go. If I want to make some meaning and purpose in my life, that's where I want to build it. I want to build it on the journey. I want to make those connections happen for people. There you go. So I hope that you got something out of this, right? This is a wrap for this season, I guess you'd say. Maybe I'll do a season 2. Maybe it'll lead to something else. I don't know, right? I got 4 sold out readings still on the books. They're scheduled for April. I'm going to get to those, and maybe I'll do more of those. I don't know. I honestly don't know, folks. I don't know where it's going. And that's kind of cool to admit. So I encourage you to go further down the road. Keep on your journey. I also love hearing your feedback. If you want to reach out to me, check me out at scottedwardhenry.com. Check me out on Facebook or Instagram at scottedwardhenry. And if you're listening to this on your mobile, subscribe to this Ripple Road, because I may come back up for a season 2. I'm still not sure. We're open to whatever the universe hands me. But you'll get notifications if I do come back up and running, right? So be sure to take a moment right now on your phone to subscribe to it, to like it, and even if you can, rate the episode, rate the show. This helps me to grow the show. This helps me to grow the audience and spread the word more, right? Talk about connection with others. Share it, man. Share in this experience if you enjoyed any part of this, right? Tell your friends and family. Talk about it. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for following me on this journey. If you missed any of the episodes, go back and check them out. I'm not always the best at titling or giving the show description. You know, you'll see that on my YouTube channel. If you check that out, I'll start talking about one topic and meander onto another. So there might be little nuggets hidden in there for you that don't really meet the title or match the show description. Give them a listen, you know? And that brings up another point, right? If you want to check out my YouTube channel, check it out, man. I'll have a link in the bonus content. Check out rippleroadpod.com. Go to episode 12, bonus content. There it is, you know? Anyway, thank you so much for being part of this journey. Thank you for listening. I always like hearing other people's stories too, so I'm going to leave you with one more story from somebody, and that'll be a wrap. Thank you again for listening, and be cool.
My mother passed in 2012, and since then, I've been getting a lot of signs from her. I had a dream, it was more like a visit dream, that I was in my back bedroom and I was looking in the mirror and my mom appeared on my back and she, like I was giving her a piggyback ride. And I said, "Mom, are you okay?" And she shook her head, yes. And I said, "Mom, can you see me?" And she didn't talk, but she shook her head, a very reassuring yes. And next thing I know, she was enveloping me in this amazing hug. And I said, "This is amazing because this just tells me that there's more after this life."
We're going to record it like a million times. So just, you can say it laughing, you can say it loud, you can say it quiet. Just need to say, "This is Ripple Road."
This is Ripple Road.
That's good.
No, right. It's not. That was not my voice.
Okay, but try it again. And then do it like just a little bit slower. Whisper.
This is Ripple Road.
Okay, that's a good pace. Now do it louder, closer to the mic. You'll get it.
I'm gonna lose it. This is Ripple Road.
Perfect.